Thank you for joining us on a long weekend. This is one of the presentations of ESRAG South Asia, and it's a timely and important topic on agrivoltaics, as countries right now are facing energy crisis, agriculture crisis. This seems to be a way that both energy and the agriculture sector can work together and especially help smaller farmers. I'd like to introduce you to Jaideep. Jaideep has been in the solar industry for more than 20 years. He's a director in ESRAG South Asia, and he is a TRF cadre for solar energy. He's the only one for renewable energy right now in RI. So if you have any questions for any global grants on solar energy, he's the person to contact. And he's from District 3131, which is Pune. He belongs to Pune Camp, Rotary Club. And over to you, Jaideep, to take us through this interesting topic.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good evening to all the friends all over the world in India. It's my pleasure once again to be presenting to ESRAGians. Thank you, Meena, also for that lucid introduction, which I think I don't need many know about it. Very important topic, yes, rightly said. And this is going to be a futuristic technology which is going to catch up, particularly, considering India, the economy, almost about 70% is agriculture. And agriculture constitutes the largest energy input in our country. You'll be surprised to know. It's not industries, it's not transport, as I said. And this is going to grow because as the population grows, the agriculture activity grows, more crops are required. So let's understand about the science of agrivoltaics. I'll come to that, what it means. So, okay. Just a moment. Well, once again, just a moment, I'll share it. Yeah. So is it visible to everybody?
It is just starting. Yeah. Can you make it full screen, please?
Okay. There it is now, full screen.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. So understanding Rotary clubs empowering agrivoltaics, right? My pleasure to be presenting as ESRAG South Asia. This is a very old topic. I was involved right since this concept was rather when it was 15 years back. But because at that time solar power was so expensive that the governments were really not comfortable, taking it to a commercial scale, because the demand would have been so high, considering the large amount of farmers in our country, that it was put besides. Rather, they focus more on the rural electrification. But now it is well on its path. So let's understand what is agrivoltaics. It's a combination of two words, agri and voltaics. Agri means producing crops. Voltaics comes from the science of photovoltaics, meaning generating electricity through solar energy. So producing solar power. That's how the agrivoltaics come. And further to add into it, so if you see the image to your left, it's a simple solution for more efficient solar panels, that is growing vegetables. Then in between, you have the source of power. It's looking like a battery. Plus, because solar panels are always tilted, you can even undertake rainwater harvesting by collecting the water that's falling on the panel. So you hit 3 targets with the same arrow. Now let's understand the concept of agrivoltaics precisely. It says, developing the same land area for a combined solar energy as well as for agriculture, thus increased farming yield. So let's say, as a farmer, I grow only crops. If you see to the image on the left hand top corner, whereas there could be a land which would be used just to generate solar power, which is at the bottom of your left hand side, right? So either you grow crops or you totally use the land for generating solar power. Then the idea came, why not elevate these solar panels and grow crops below, so that both the lands will get converted into 80% of each, right? Because see, all crops cannot grow under shade, but there are some. So 80% of that would be wheat, 80% would be solar electricity if we combine. So instead of 100%, it would become 160%, right? You are almost like more than 1.5 doubling the yield of both the electricity and the crop. So combining crops that grow under sunlight and shade, that's what in short this comparison of efficiency. This is traditional farming versus agrivoltaics. Hope this is clear, that we elevate the solar panels, grow some crops that are under the shade. These panels are spaced from each other. Unlike the traditional solar farm, the solar panels which are put, which are close to each other. So here what happens is that certain portion you allow light to fall on the ground, and certain of them is trapped by way of the solar panels. Now, the next is, how do we utilize them, the solar power? So there are three ways we can do. One is you go for a total captive, including storage, because see, solar power is not round the clock. You don't have 24 hours. So during daytime, whatever sunlight you have, you can pump. But equally, if your cropping pattern requires more water to be fed, then you can store it in a storage tank. Please don't use a battery. It's costly to store in a battery. It's cheaper to store water. All right, and then you can pass it in the fields. The other option could be both as a captive, and in case I am having excessive land, I can put up more solar panels, right? Then I trade the excess electricity with the nearby houses, or if there is an industry, or it could even be an electric utility system. Either way, so that I make best use of my available land. That's the other way, or that's the second option. The third option is, I become a complete trader. I just put up these solar panels to feed it to the electric utility grid under some arrangement with the electric utility, and we enter into a power purchase agreement. So in the second case, what happens is, the electric utility will tell, whatever power you are drawing from us, we will deduct whatever power you are exporting by way of your solar energy. Right? Because solar power, as I said, is not round the clock, not all months in a year, especially in India, where we have about 2 to 2.5 months, which is about 60 to 80, or even in some cases 100 days of monsoon, where you do need to have external electricity from the grid. So these are the three ways the agrivoltaics option can work. Now we'll see further where best Rotary fits in. Now let's understand the concept of agrivoltaics. Radiant, and I apologize, there's a spelling mistake, it should be radiant. Radiant sunlight is converted into power to pump water. That's the major use of solar power for agriculture use. Lighting is very, very minuscule. That's only during dark hours the farmer may need it, unless he has a good electricity connection. Now, there are certain crops that require less sunlight. They are best suited for it. So you'll have to adjust your cropping pattern. You have to implement these projects where the crops that require less sunlight, those areas we explore. It cannot be everywhere. For example, a sugar cane. It requires a lot of water and sunlight. So it's a bad example for agrivoltaics. But there are certain seeds, for example, or pulses that don't need too much amount of sunlight. right? So they are best suited for these kinds. So you'll have to have multiple cropping patterns. Third, the water draining from the panels is collected back by harvesting through pipes. If you see this second image on the slide, it's virtually work like a rainwater harvesting. All the water that flows through the panel is collected and it is harvested back in the field. Now, one advantage of using solar panel is the shading prevents soil erosion. So what do we get the net output? Why this is as an advantage? We have solar powered pumped water, so no need to depend on the electric grid or the diesel. So we save even on carbon footprint, we don't pollute, we don't contribute to the climate change. There is there are a lot of rather case studies, especially in Europe, which says there is increased agriculture yield as a result of agrivoltaics. So the farmer gets more income and they are able to pay back for whatever investment in the solar energy. Of course, it promotes rainwater harvesting. And the last is very crucial. I'll come to a case study in India. The farmers realized this. Typically in India, the agriculture power is either subsidized or due to political policies, it's free. So these farmers never bother to switch off the pumps. Now the disadvantage is you reduce the water table. A lot of water is drained out because it doesn't cost me. I don't need to. And as a result, they don't realize that both the water table bed is going down and we are wasting electricity. Now here, if you tell them that use optimal amount of solar energy, any excess we will buy from you. Now, once the farmers realize, oh, there is an income opportunity that we can trade our power. Why waste this excessive energy and also why drain the water table bed? I'll come to that through a case study. So these are the net output. So that's another advantage. It will educate the farmers on optimal use of electricity. This is the proposed model for a Rotary club. To the left-hand side is what would be the inputs from the farmer side. So the farmer, he will have his land, he will have his cropping activity, there will be a crop yield, there will be farm produce, and the farmer is going to trade that. What would be the role of a Rotary club? Why should Rotary get involved in an agrivoltaics? The Rotary club will make sure that the solar photovoltaic project is installed, it is commissioned. Since there is one-time investment, that is, there's a huge capex. So the farmer will say, I am unable to put in this money. Of course, the governments have plenty of schemes. There's a bank called National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, or NABARD in short, which provides a loan for agrivoltaics projects. Besides, central government provides 30% subsidy, and some of the states match that subsidy 30%. So virtually 60% is subsidized. But for this subsidy, they need some kind of a counter guarantee. There has to be some kind of security for the loan you borrow. So that's where the Rotary Club would come in. The Rotary Club will act as a guarantor to these NABARD or any rural bank which is financing. It will make sure the agrivoltaic system is installed. They will do the management of the solar power generation. And the generated electricity, if there is any excess, they'll make sure the utility purchases it under some power purchase agreement. Otherwise, equally here, the utilities, they are notorious many a times. Sorry to use the word, because they then don't pay back the money. Although the power is fed in the grid, then they say, all right, fine, at the end of the year, we'll settle your money once we receive the revenue from our consumers or blah, blah, like that. So it will make sure that there is proper legal documentation in place so that these farmers don't run bankrupt and they are able to raise. So this is a proposed model. So sharing of revenue can happen between a farmer and a RESCO. RESCO is Renewable Energy Service Company. So Rotary here, the Rotary Club will become the RESCO, right? It will manage the entire operation. We make sure that the Rotary Club has minimal investment. I'll come to it how global grants can help or how CSR funds can come in picture. So I hope that this particular table is clear to you all. I'm always open to questions later. Now I'll share one case study in Gujarat. Though it was not agrivoltaics, but it was close to that, it was implemented. This was the first success case study in India. There's a village called Dhundi near Anand, Gujarat, which is in the southern part of the state. So 9 farmers adopted 5 horsepower solar pumping, right? They adopted and they put in a 25% equity. The balance was incentivized both by the central government, state government by way of subsidy. So 60% was subsidy, right? That makes it 85%. And the balance 15%, one of the banks came forward to finance it by way of loan, right? 25% was the farmer's contribution, 60% was the subsidy, 15% was the loan provided by the bank. Now, what it helped is that the farmers were assured of power during the daytime. This village was barely getting power during daytime. And they used to keep the pumps on midnight when the power used to be available to them, pump the water in the fields as well as store it in the tank. And they would never bother to switch off because this will happen around midnight or rather night 9:30, 10 when your peak demand is less. Morning 7 o'clock they will switch off. So almost 8 to 10 hours or maybe even 13 hours of pump was operating for no reason, which required maybe hardly 3 or 4 hours. So here what happened? They got assured power during daytime when you do the maximum farming, and they were smart enough, we call as climate smart, that they saved electricity. They only used power when it was required to do the farming. And they ensured that maximum power is sold to the electricity board. Now, the government prepared a documentation, a MOU between the electric utility and the 9 farmers, the state government, when I say here, to make sure that for 25 years, any excess power which is there, the electricity board will purchase. And the rates were finalized by the state regulator, which in this case is Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Commission. And they put in also a factor of inflation because power is not consistent all 25 years. The cost keeps growing. So they, I think, announced a inflation of 3.5% every year. They get excess. Now, what happened? This project undertook in 2015. And in 3 years' time, as you see, the annual climate smart income shot up to 5.5 lakh rupees, meaning the excess power that was sold, the 9 farmers earned 5.5 lakh rupees, right? And it helped them almost cover up for their loan. Not only that, they even covered up for the equity they put in. So virtually the solar pump became free to them. Now, typically, any solar panel life is about 20 years to 25 years. So they will enjoy free electricity for 17 years. I repeat, in 3 years, they were able to generate an income of 5.5 lakh. So it is 550,000 for the international participants on this particular event, right? We use the lakh and the crore, typical terminology in India. The other advantage that happened was there was less pilferage of groundwater. And of course, to tackle climate change for the state governments, which had certain obligations, the CO2 emissions reduced by about 1,300 tons. So if you see, it was a win-win situation, this particular concept, right? And after this particular model is now implemented nationwide under the government program called KUSUM, KUSUM. There's a Hindi name to it, very big. I don't want to put it. You can browse the net. And the same model is available. So let's come to the economics part. Now, where a Rotary can do a project. Typically, an ideal capacity of a 500 kilowatt peak, which is a centralized system catering to about 50 to 70 farmers. The size of the land about 1 hectare, which is roughly around 2.5 acres. The capital investment about 2 crores, which is about 20 million for the international viewers, 20 million Indian rupees. Please convert into your currencies for your understanding. The annual generation at the rate of 1500 electrical units, so that's kilowatt hour per kilowatt, will yield about 7,50,000 kilowatt hour or 750,000 kilowatt hours, 7,50,000 units. This is what the solar power will generate. Life of solar photovoltaic system, 20 years. Now, the cost of electricity today, Gujarat and Maharashtra, if we take western part, I don't know about the southern states, but some of the states, they have almost 4 rupees or little above that. So at that rate, you're almost saving annually 30 lakh rupees. Now imagine 7,50,000 electrical units are available by the electrical utility or the electricity board company to trade it with the commercial and industrial entities, which fetches them more than 10 rupees rather than 4 rupees here. So they gain an advantage, and now they have started realizing this, so they are open to support and sign an MOU, right? So annual electricity cost saved by the farmer is about 30 lakh rupees. But the same, if we see by the electric utility, it is almost about how much? 1 crore, right? Annual agriculture revenue close to about 3,35,000 from this 1 hectare. The lifetime carbon footprint avoided is about 2,500 tons. A simple payback is about 72 months. How much? About 6 years. Correct? Now, if you want to improve this simple payback, why not take any other grants or global grants? Meaning, can the capex, which is the capital investment, be reduced from about 2 crores, maybe to about 1.5 crores or maybe 1 crore? So there are a lot of corporates now out of CSR who want to claim the CO2 emissions reduction. They want to show. So in a way, these farmers are trading the carbon footprint, right? And they are ready to put in some equity by way of grants. Now, the other advantage in this case is the bankers are comfortable to even lend more money to the farmers. So instead of 15%, 1.5, we can make it 50% and reduce the subsidy burden. See, any subsidy is deterrent to any government. It gets misused. And ideally, as a Rotary Club, we must make a model that is subsidy free. I'm sure the government is going to really appreciate. And perhaps they may come out with a scheme of one-time grant of a certain amount directly credited in the farmer's account. Probably they may come out. So that will act as one of the grants which will be matched by a CSR. So they will tell, supposing a CSR gives 30%, we'll give 30%. So the farmer gets 60% by way of grants. Maybe one of the Rotary Global grants can say we give 30% instead of the CSR. So if the economics part is clear, then I go to the next slide. Otherwise, I'll be open to questions even on this economic side if you have not understood. I'll very quickly wrap up on economics. A 500 kilowatt peak system on a 1 hectare. See, the solar system uses the terminology of kilowatt peak, meaning this amount of power will get generated when there is peak sunlight. So typically we get anywhere between 4 hours to 6 hours of peak sunlight in a year. It's not right from sunrise to sunset. That's why we use the terminology watt peak. So 500 kilowatt peak per hectare will generate about 750,000 units. Life will be 20 years. The electricity saved by the farmer is about 3 million or 30 lakhs. Okay. And besides, there is some agriculture revenue of 3,35,000, and the payback is about 72 months, 6 years.
There's a question here from Neeraj about what is the cost per kilowatt?
Yes. Yeah, I'll come to that. So I just end my presentation as the ESRAG South Asia. Thank you for providing, and let us be the first. Don't miss the bus. Okay, if there is a possibility, I would like to show maybe a short video.
Go ahead.
Very short, maybe about a minute. All right, there's a very big video. I can later share the YouTube channel, but this is a fantastic case study. Another one that has come up, funded by the German government.
Another pilot here in Delhi.
The volume is not there.
Oh, my volume is full here.
Yeah, but the YouTube volume is very low.
With flowers and also special potato varieties, mainly in the. If we go back to okay, Jane irrigation might be familiar. Jane irrigation, multi-national conglomerate, $1 billion annual sales, mainly in drip irrigation systems, listed at Indian Stock Exchange. They experimented already way back in 2012 and then 2014, and they said, okay, let's try monopile systems. And here, for example, cotton and ladyfingers or Indian okra is being grown. I think last year, 2019, yeah, not 2019, it was, no, 2020. So last year, this plant has been commissioned by the...
How is the volume now?
Better.
Dialbach.
So I'll come a little...
So whenever...
I'll come back.
The lower side walking ways are being installed. Another pilot here in Delhi, the capital of India. They small plant, actually it's a larger commercial plant, but the agri-PB is being tested there with flowers and also special potato varieties, mainly industries. If we go back to...
More minutes, please.
Okay, Jane irrigation might be familiar. Jane irrigation, multi-national conglomerate, $1 billion annual sales. Mainly in drip irrigation systems, listed at the Indian Stock Exchange. They experimented already way back in 2012 and then 2015. And they said, monopile systems, and here, for example, cotton and ladyfingers or an Indian okra is being grown. I think last year, 2019. Yeah, not 2019, it was, no, 2020. So last year, this plant has been commissioned by the Agriculture University, Dialbach, close to Akka. So whenever you come to India to visit the Taj Mahal, it's really just a few meters from there. You might be, just pass by and have a look at this concept. What's interesting, they're experimenting with glass bifacial modules combined with monofacial modules. Different panel patterns are being experimented with. I think Professor Vicky Jain is also here with us today. Interesting concept where they really say, okay, all the cabling has to stay below, has to stay above the agricultural activity. They also installed a piping system to actually automatically clean the system. Not sure to which extent draining is an issue, but yeah, they're collecting the water with the rain data also, and yeah, a lot of research has been produced. I think this plant was installed already in 2017. Here a manual piping system for water for cleaning the solar panels. Getting back to Jane irrigation, impressive research being done here from this private company. 14 kilowatt banana pilot. They have also experience with the corn tracking system here being installed, as you can see. Behind you see here interesting pilots where they experiment with low methane and low CO2 emitting rice. As we all know, rice growing is a challenge in terms of climate change. And yeah, they're also experimenting with different panels. So here you see they change the panels and put a higher cell spacing with some transparency to actually get more sun for the rice. They really brought it up to another level now. They have the largest greenhouses installed in India now with the bifacial glass modules. Beautiful to see these kind of developments by Jain Irrigation. Going back to research, one could really say that the Junagadh Agriculture University produced, yeah, maybe most of the scientific papers available in the international community. They have also they make good experience with tomato. They have also tested plant growing availability besides. So I think Professor Chauhan is also here with us, and he would be glad to actually exchange his experiences with you with this wonderful tomatoes being grown here in Africa. Latest plan I'm going to show to you is this one, just commissioned a couple of days ago in 2021 in Ujwa. This is a 110 kilowatt. Beautiful to see is that they have installed and actually combined all the learnings from the other plants, mistakes that had been made, they had been put. So they start with the, let's say, monopile Y structure. They have installed the rain gutter system. They have installed the drip irrigation. They have put larger spaces in between the rows. So really beautiful to see, and we're looking forward to how they actually deal with the cleaning issue. This one, really last one, I think I'm going to show you is just a converted plant. That was a regular plant before, tracking with tracking here, a 400 kilowatt peak. Total plant size is above, I think, 5 megawatt, but on 400 kilowatt part, they are doing growing lemongrass. Beautiful to see. And that actually leads us to the last slide, which I'm going to show you. We really believe that cleaning is one of the biggest issues, and we are really hopeful that with new cleaning technologies like robotic cleaning, in this case here by Ecopia, combined with single axis tracking, we will be able to elevate the height, use monopile structure, and actually get the best outcome in terms of land usage. If you want to get to know more about
so I won't continue on the presentation of this. Was done by Mr. Tobias Winter, is my very good friend. He heads the Indo-German Energy Forum. Now I am open to questions.
Can you stop sharing, Jaideep?
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. Hope it was interesting presentation. If you liked it, and there were a lot of learnings for the years. The agrivoltaics is improving, and you see the typical solar panel. Monofacial means the solar cells are only visible on the front side. At the back side, you'll find a white colored polymer sheet. In a bifacial, what happens, instead of the white sheet, there is a glass. So the solar cells are put on the glass and again covered by a glass in order to make it fully weatherproof. And the advantage is, there is a spacing between the cells within the solar panel, which allows light to come in. So now there are a lot of learnings out of this, and I think today we have reached a stage where it is a matured technology. So yes, I'm open to questions. Is there a minimum requirement on the size of the land? As I said, ideally it should be at least about 1.5 acres, if not. Ideally. But we can implement even on a smaller scale. The question would be how much power they'll be able to trade. So rather, combine a multiple number of farmers and it's as good as you're supplying them electricity. So larger the project, better are the chances it will get clearances from the government. It will be feasible. It's a workable model.
Can you just draw a flow chart if someone wants to start the project? How do they go about it? When does NABARD come in? When does the state this thing come in? If you could just, do a flow sketch for us, I could add.
I'll come
add
back
it to the recording at the end.
Yes, yes. So what I will do is I'll come back to the chart that I made about where there could be a role of a rotary. Just a moment. I'll share it once again. So, are you able to see?
We are waiting for the screen share.
Okay.
Yeah. We got it. What I'm saying is, being a solar professional, for you, you know where to go and get this solar PV and things like that. So I'm just asking you, I don't know anything about it. I want to do this. I've got 5 farmers. I've got 5 hectares. Do I approach the state photovoltaic department, or do I go to a private player?
No. Good question. That's a good question. See, here the role of the electric utility is very crucial and important, especially in cases where these farmers have electricity connection, right? Because they will have to give the clearance as you are using the infrastructure, and they have already been, I would put, instructed that any proposal that comes for agrivoltaics or under the Kusum scheme, that may be accorded priority. So the first step is speak with the electric utility that as Rotary Club, we would like to adopt about 10 or 15 farmers for a project, and we would like to have your necessary permission for that. Now, for example, if you take the case of Maharashtra, what these electric discoms are telling, we call them as discom, that is distribution company. If they don't want to go with the hassle of state electricity boards, ask them to surrender back their electricity connection. They can have diesel as a backup, plus they go for the solar pumping. Okay, so try to avoid that. So first step is go to the electric utility, seek their guidance, then accumulate at least about 5 to 10 farmers, or whatever number of farmers you are looking. The next crucial step is to find out the cropping pattern, whether they can accept a shaded light or they need complete sunlight for their crop. Otherwise, there'll be a crop loss which they will not be able to afford, and the project will not find viability. So the next step is to find the cropping pattern, and if they are ready to change the cropping pattern to grow certain things under the shade and certain that will be available under the light. As you see, okra or the lady's fingers, these kind of crops can grow under shade, or even banana, as a matter of fact. They don't need intense sunlight, right? So that's the next step we have to do. Once these two are in place, then we will have to have either some consultant to find out how the feasibility will work. Don't worry, as far as the solar panels are concerned, all solar panels made in India are of high quality. They have passed international standards. They cannot otherwise enter into India. The penalties are very heavy, failure to do so. So nowadays, be assured that there are no inferior quality. Very few exceptions are there when you're importing. So that part you don't have to worry. Now, the next important step is tackling the capex. Now, some states may have the subsidy scheme, some may not have. My humble and honest suggestion is, let's not go for the subsidy pattern. Let's make it a subsidy-free program. So we approach the corporates for their CSR funds, because the subsidies take their own time to come. And this present government the only way they are disbursing subsidy is disbursement into the accounts of the farmer. So you have to make the initial investment. They don't pay upfront because there have been bad experiences. The projects are only on paper. So rather, why not seek some funding from the global grants or the clubs pumping money or the corporates, that a pool of fund is created, the system is purchased, it is commissioned, then we can even apply for a subsidy because all subsidy programs are online now. So that will be, as we say in Hindi, sone pe suhaga, it's icing on the cake. We can revolve that money for another project, and the Rotary can take back its equity that it had pumped in out of the CSR. Those would be the flow chart. Electric utility permission first. Secondly, gathering farmers to understand the cropping pattern. The third thing is management of the funding. And then applying for the subsidies. These are the three broad steps. And I'm sure then the project will happen. If you see in the video that I had shared, there were some case studies. So companies like Jain Irrigation, Mahindra Sustain, all these people had pumped in their money out of CSR. Yeah.
Jaideep, I have a question here. Sure. What happens is whenever we do a project, suppose let's say it has to be like a commercial project, wherein like I have a project, okay, fine, I have a 1 crore project or a 10 lakh project. Okay. Then I go to the farmer, look, boss, I have a 10 lakh project with me, and this is what you need to do. I mean, we have to approach that sort of thing, Unless I first don't convince the farmer, going to the electricity board or anywhere else doesn't make sense. So first I have to convince the farmer, okay, look, boss, if you do this 10 lakh investment, in which Rotary will give you 8 lakh, you give me 2 lakh, this is your benefit. And then he says yes. After he says yes, he gives you a letter, okay, look, I can do this project. I'm interested in this project. Then I go to the electricity board, look, this farmer is ready to do it. This is how the approach has to be there. We can't go to electricity board and then come backwards. Suppose electricity board, fine, you do it. But you don't have a farmer who's ready to do it. So all your effort is gone, Similarly, like I go to a school. Look, boss, I want to you have toilets over here. You need a washing system here. So this cost of washing system is 2 lakh rupees. I'm giving you 2 lakh rupees to do this project. It has to be a proactive approach to do this projects actually.
Okay, I honor your words, Iraj, but I'll tell you one thing. The local utilities are the best people to convince the farmers. And unless they don't do it. Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So unless, the convincing part can happen from the Rotary side, the electric utility people are the best because they can explain them. See, many agricultural areas in India have erratic electric supply, and diesel is becoming very expensive day by day. To bring diesel, it further costs them. So why I gave the other approach of first convincing the electricity board is because they are the biggest stumbling block. They somehow don't like that, you are robbing us of our revenue. But now due to compulsions, they are doing it because the government has given a directive to all the electric utilities that any application that comes for agriculture pumping under the KUSUM or the Agrivoltaics has to be accorded priority, and it has to be uploaded online. So this is my view. However, it is an individual club's perspective. They feel that first convincing of the farmer. Yeah, Michel has raised his hand. Michael or Michel, sorry.
Michel, yeah. Yes, Jaideep, thank you for your excellent presentation. What about countries where the government don't buy the power back, like in Japan or other countries, the government doesn't buy the power. They have kind of monopoly, and so do the farmers then have to do something in their own community to store the power for their own usage and form a kind of a cooperative? There's many cooperatives and they could use it for their own usage maybe, but then you would have to have a battery or...
No, then in that case, it makes sense to do a third-party sale. You understand third-party sale meaning any excess power, you tell the electric utility company that we will sell it to a buyer, which is an industry or a commercial entity, and the electric utility will have some kind of a wheeling charge in between. There's something called as a wheeling charge.
Okay.
Either you can bank the power with the electricity board or you can wheel. So wheeling charges are typically 2% to 3%. So they don't lose anything. On the contrary, they say, fine, you meet a minimum amount of 2-3%. We will feed your power to an entity at the other end. So that could be other option. See, that's a great part as far as India is concerned. They did a very good study of this and they made sure the farmers are made comfortable. See, whenever you sense some revenue is coming in, the projects tend to get popularized and they can be scaled up. Now, I pity really Japan doesn't have this, but I'm sure that there will be a learning from countries like India, some countries in Africa. They are very aggressively following this agrivoltaics. So they may probably learn out of this. But if it doesn't work, do a third-party sale to a commercial entity, to an industry.
And then there is, there is a massive park of solar panels on the ground on farmland, and that can be upgraded. I don't know the legal terms, but the panels are there. They probably have another 15 years to go. So we would look at a conversion kit where we can go to existing farmers or governments and say,
here. Yes, you can. I've seen a question, what about a conversion model for existing solar panel? It's possible. See, you'll have to, that's why I raised the same question. You will have to first talk to your distribution company or the electric utility company, whether we can tamper with the existing infrastructure. Will you allow us? And we want to adopt an agrivoltaics project, right? Meaning we want to convert this project into agrivoltaics because they are the first people. Otherwise, if your MOU is such that if you are disturbing the infrastructure, your project is no more valid. They will sell and you won't purchase your power or won't allow. So they are the best people whom you have to ask first. And if they say so, then I think infrastructure cost is hardly. It would be barely about 10 to 12% of the total project cost, what we consider. You have to just raise the height of the panel, provide sufficient conduits. See, in this case, one thing you have to realize, the cabling cannot be underground, unlike typical solar farming. Because underground, you have a lot of water percolation. The tractors move in, they can cut the cables. That's why you would have seen in the video, the cabling has to be on the top of the panel. And it makes serviceability also easier. The aesthetics may not look good, but then you put some kind of conduit pipes or some pipes within which the cables go. So there will be a cost of infrastructure, but it's possible.
And we should have a list of the crops that are eligible. You say banana, but if you have it, we can save a lot of time.
There is a data available of crops that can go under the shades. In India, we have NARI, NARI, or ICAR is there.
Can you just
Institute
share the list,
for
Jaideep?
Cultural. I will do that. ICR list I share. So ICR has a published document about the crops that can be grown under shade.
Because it can be compared across different countries too. It may not be just India.
Yeah. So ICR is related to India, of course. I'm sharing the link of ICAR. Just a moment. And Indian Council for Agriculture Research. So you'll even find it in Wikipedia. There is. Okay. So I'll just share the link. It's a fantastic. It's based out of Delhi in Pusta. I go there often. Neeraj can also perhaps being in Delhi sometimes visit.
Yeah.
Here it is. I am putting it in the chat. Okay. Any other questions?
Which global grant classification would you use? Because CapEx is not allowed normally by Rotary.
Oh, that I'll have to now understand because I'm not so familiar with the global grant. Maybe Nina can best tell whether it will come under.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
Which type of global grant would you use? Because Rotary normally don't finance CapEx.
No, but this comes under, we can do it under environment, where the solar panels will work with, we can try to make it as a plant-based diet one, looking at nutrition, looking at energy, looking at this thing. So it will go very beautifully under the group, under environment, as long as we show that these panels will be used by the community and there is an end of use recycling built into it. That is where the problem is.
That solution I'm coming out soon. So don't worry.
As we have Jaideep here, and to make it, I know we have an Indian focus, but to make it global for 200 countries, if you could maybe through Mina ask us questions that we need, like the electricity costs in each country, and then we can feed that back to Mina and to Jaideep, and can make a table where people can go online for each country, and they can copy and paste, and then go to their local farmers and energy, because those questions will come back. And energy is cheaper in Japan than in India, and maybe in other countries different. So we need to look at maybe a table so we can use it for every country.
Jaideep, this is your homework.
I've already put on the work, but I beg to differ. I don't think it.
No. Why I got you to do this talk is to start this conversation, just like what Michelle says. We are looking at any project that can be used, if not the whole world. If you can give us in 4 or 5 countries at least where to look for this, we will be able to build it through the projects division. We'll be able to make it as a turnkey. But we need to know where to start.
Yeah, very good question. Also, I appreciate. Best suited for tropical countries. These kinds of projects. So if you take, let's say, Canada or maybe the Scandinavian country, it's a challenge. But if we tackle the tropical countries, say, for example, Australia, the Far East, the African countries, then Mexico, excellent example, the southern part of Europe, these are the countries where it can
even
be
for
best.
3 countries, Jaideep, if you can help us with this, we can get the ESRAG members in different countries to start looking at it. This was the idea of having this talk today, is opening the floor to saying that this can be done anywhere.
Okay, fine. That will be homework. Though, I'll have to understand the cropping pattern of every country, because I do understand about India and the South Asia part.
So wheat is comparable across all countries.
Yes, wheat, potatoes.
If you could just look at wheat or paddy, let's see where we go. See, one thing with wheat and paddy, they don't need insects to pollinate them. So your solar panel is not going to affect too much of it.
Okay.
But whereas other crops, we are looking at insects which could also get problematic in it. But let's just look at wheat or paddy. This is grown across most of the tropical countries. Let's see.
Sure.
If you give us a way to look at 2 things, as what Michelle says, say for Southeast Asia, maybe Vietnam or something like that, we can start looking to see how we can take it forward.
Sure, I'll do that. I'll take that as a task.
You are the expert in this. We don't have this thing. We can only ask you questions.
Yeah, I understand. No. I got that. Any other questions I can see in the chat? Else is there?
I have a question, Jaideep. What is the penetration level of usage of agrivoltaics in, say, a state or over 100 hectares? Like, to say in India, suppose you have 1,000 acres of hectares of agriculture land, what is the penetration level of agrivoltaics right now?
Oh, it's the new subject. As you see, hardly 8 or 10 projects have come up on a pilot basis. Yeah, that's what I'm telling. We can create a revolution just the way Rotary created a polio revolution. We can create an agrivoltaics revolution. I, in fact, started my presentation with that. Rotary can create a role model for this.
Absolutely.
And we are celebrating our 75 years of independence. Why not celebrate the next 50 years of energy independence? And Rotary has given the way by totally using sustainable power.
What is the what is the cost of storage per, because this is going to be one of the major issues when you talk to anybody, especially in the agriculture, because let me give you a small background. I did agriculture farming for 2 years and managed 110 acres farm in Karnataka, in Sunilon district. And we were growing cotton, we were growing sugarcane over there, and paddy. So this is my background I have for 2 years of doing agriculture farming in way back in 79,
Okay.
So, I've been involved in this in a very, very big way. Earlier days, of course. We were developing some machinery equipment for the farmers, small farmers, actually. Similarly, we can develop this small scale, like we have to be very precise. I'm a project man, I'm a consulting in a project consulting, So I like to go anywhere with the project cost. Okay, fine. You invest 2 lakhs, this is your investment, this is what has happened, this is your output. Simple as that. Those 4 liners we need to talk to anybody. I'm telling you, this is required. This is how it is successful, Otherwise, it's
See, I'll tell you, I'll make it very simpler. Instead of twisting the heads of farmers on changing cropping patterns and all, perhaps one thing we realize, the farmers are more comfortable if we are able to just trade the electricity. We give our farmland. Don't ask us to change our cropping pattern, but we have a lot of land. Can we just trade the power to the electric utility? Now that's what. See, it's a business game. They want some source of income. So here they've sent.
This is the money game. If you tell that guy, look, you're going to earn so much money, he'll run and do it in one day. It's as simple as that.
Yes, that's
if
what
the farmer, boss, you're going to save $100 a month, he'll run and do it. That's how it is.
That's what I said, and they just say, fine, let's do that. But here, what in fact, the electric utility companies are more than comfortable because their burden is not today to provide uninterrupted power to farmers, which they are not able to do. So what they said, this is out of our experience we are telling. They said, just give us the solar power. What today, the biggest challenge for solar power in India is the land, looking at our ambitious targets. That's why, the rooftop program is being made aggressive.
But Jaideep, that is why people are putting up solar panels over sea, over canals, over
everywhere. That's what.
And I was suggesting the other day, why don't we build solar panels above roads?
Oh, okay, I read that. I thought probably you're asking on the surface.
No,
which is typically Netherlands, but no, on the sides of the road. See, all this to visualize it's very
above the road. Above the road. I'm talking about above the road.
It won't be allowed. NHAI won't allow because you have some of your trailers, trolleys so high. The biggest problem when you elevate any solar panel is the maintenance, the dust. It's a huge cost.
Okay.
And that doesn't help. See, even why many rooftop projects are not taking up, because if you put it on a tilted roof or a factory shed or somewhere, the safety issues come in. These factory industry people, they tell, we follow the safety standards, OHS. We won't allow our people to climb up and clean the panels. Now, nobody in India is providing robotic cleaning. You saw in that video I showed one, how to clean the panels. They are now doing tilting, tracking. Tracking will further add to the cost. So you bring down the panel, track it, clean it, and again tilt back to the original place. So these are challenges, but they will be overcome. But our countries, it's typical. We have so much amount of dust and foreign particles.
What I believe in. When solar panel came into the world, that time, as you know it very well, of course, the cost of power generation was 18 rupees. It has come down to 1.2 rupees right now. That's so right. Similarly, if we start a project, initial problem will be there, but the concept should be good. That should be a doable concept. So that everything else falls in line over the time.
So that's what I'm sure that Rotary can break the ice by doing a pilot agrivoltaics project. And since Neeraj, you are in Delhi, I'll make you meet Tobias Winter. He's a very nice man. The Indo-German governments have an agreement to support such projects.
Yeah.
And they'll be more than happy to give by way of grants. I spoke to him already. He was happy to know I'm a Rotarian. He knows it.
Okay, I'll go and see him.
Definitely. Yeah. My pleasure. Any other questions?
Presentation has been super. I mean, I find a new avenue for Rotary. Really.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
More question means more interest.
No, anytime. Yeah.
Are there any more questions? Can we close down the? Oh yes, Michelle, go ahead.
Well, I mean, in Europe, there's a new regulation that rooftop solar panels is now going to be compulsory on any new building. It's being enforced in France. And I think in many countries, I don't know in India, but rooftops, first we have to cool the cities because we have the rural agriculture where we have our cities that are getting hotter. And I don't know in India if you have a lot of rooftop farming happening and also solar panel. So there could be an opportunity because in some countries becoming allowed that they have to put both the rooftop garden and the solar. So that's the case now in France. So France is quite leading edge. They've banned plastic on many of the wrapping of vegetable. This model could be interested in many countries. I know in Shanghai we have so much heat. They're starting to try to cool the city also with roof gardens. I don't know. I think Mumbai is also very hot. In Tokyo, it's very hot. And it could be in a smaller scale. It could be interesting to bring the farm back in the city also.
Just to answer your point, Michelle, see, in India, most of the governing happens by the local municipalities or the municipal corporation, and each of them have their own laws. Though there is a federal law which states every rooftop must meet 20% of the energy needs through solar, every rooftop in this country. But that's only law on paper. The respective municipal corporations have to implement. So some municipal corporations extend tax rebates. Like the city where I am, they give 5% tax rebate. The city of Bangalore, they give 8% tax rebate anybody who puts up a solar panel. It could be a thermal based heating or a power generating based. So it's a state subject or a city subject, unfortunately. Unlike in Europe where it is governed by a federal law. And in France, you have a lot of open roof space. In India, the vertical height of the buildings are so high in urban areas that everybody's needs cannot be fulfilled. So where there are like 20 floors or 25 floors high rise, you can't make hot water reach to everybody or power reach everybody. We call it as the footprint area of the terrace is so low compared to the number of residents. You can understand that, especially Mumbai, where in a given building there are even 5,000 people staying, but the footprint area of the roof is so less. And the priority first is for the water tanks, then for their dish antennas and all to come up. So you have very little roof space left, and then you have to do the shading analysis because these have to be tilted down south, south facing. So all these are challenges, but yes, you are true. It should be done in India, and the government is making every effort. Now they have introduced subsidy, 40% subsidy for any rooftop project.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jaideep.